welcome to Focus Friday, the Huntsman School of Business. I'm Brett Crane, the director of the Covey Leadership Center. This is in partnership with Women in Tech, and we're grateful you're here today. One of the most important investments you can make is in yourself, and you decided to do that today. The snow will be there at Beaver this afternoon and tomorrow, but thank you for being here. Primarily because we're delighted to have with us Cydni Tetro, who is a pioneer in tech and a pioneer in women's leadership. In order to see it, in order to be it, you have to see it. And we like to bring exemplary leaders in so that you can aspire to do and be more. And this is a great example of that. So we're excited to have her. She's going to speak with us for a few minutes, for about 40 minutes, and then we'll open it up for Q&A. So be thinking about what questions you have for her. We'll turn it over to Quinn Gerber, who's one of our fabulous Covey Fellows, who will introduce Cydni.
Thank you, Brett. All right, Cydni Tetro is a luminary in the technology world, celebrated as the 2023 EY Entrepreneur of the Year, and recognized for her exceptional achievements as a record-breaking fundraiser, a visionary in consumer technology, and a vanguard for women in the tech industry. With her recent accomplishment of raising $118 million, the largest fundraiser led by a woman in Silicon Slopes, Cydni skillfully navigated Brandless from a modest $1.5 million to an astounding $100 million in revenue within just 24 months. As the founder and CEO of Forge DX, she propelled companies like Verizon, Adobe, Microsoft, and Dell towards a collective growth of $1 billion, ultimately leading to the merger of her company in 2020. Her entrepreneurial spirit also shone through with 3D Plus Me, a 3D printing personalization platform that secured partnerships with giants like Marvel, Star Wars, and Walmart before its acquisition. Beyond her corporate achievements, Cydni has made significant contributions to the tech company as the founder and president of the Women Tech Council and co-founder of the She Tech program, impacting over 40,000 high school girls. Her dedication to nurturing talent and innovation is further evidenced by her work with small businesses and her role as an educator. With 2 patents to her name and numerous accolades including CEO of the Year and Woman of the Year, Cydni's influence extends across the tech industry and beyond, making her a true beacon of leadership innovation. Thank you for joining us, Cydni.
Okay, is that better? Perfect. What Quinn didn't say is that we've known each other since her freshman year of high school, because she came through the She Tech program and had an opportunity to serve on our leadership board. And she extended the invitation to me to come speak, and I love the opportunity to keep these connections with all of the amazing students that I've met over the years who are doing fabulous things. So super glad to be here. Do I need to move somewhere for that feedback? Maybe. Do you guys hear the feedback a little bit? You're working on it? Okay, I'll keep talking. You tell me if you need to do something, if I need to do something different. So I'm really excited to be here and just spend a few moments with you, giving you some ideas and thoughts that have guided me in my career, and even some of those things that I learned along the way. The title they gave me were Principles in Practice. And as I was thinking about that, I was thinking a lot about what are those things that I've always felt were core to the principles that helped me create my career. And then what are those things that I learned along the way that I wish I would have known when I was sitting in your shoes? So maybe you get to make different mistakes, the mistakes that I've made as you navigate that, but you have a few insights and ways that you can think about. One of the things that I was thinking about that has been true for me is my career in technology and in business has allowed me to do a bunch of really cool things that when I was sitting in your seat, I never would have imagined were possible. So I wanted to give you a highlight of some of the things that I have had a really fantastic time doing and then talk to you about some of those guiding principles. So, the lighting, okay, we have light, you can't see, it's okay. They can see it. So one of the things that I got to do that wasn't mentioned in my bio is I spent just under 6 years at Disney in Imagineering. And my job was to figure out how we made technology innovation, or how we built businesses out of technology innovation inside of the Disney company. So one time in my career, I got to build the carbon freezing chamber on a stage in Hollywood Studios for Star Wars weekends and have people frozen in carbonite like Han Solo. Like, that was like never in my career path, just so you know. I didn't know I was going to do that. But I had this opportunity to, and it was magical. And also, I know all the things about the Star Wars lore, if you need to know, and especially about why you would be frozen in carbonite, and how you would serve your sentence for that. So I got to do that because of all of these decisions. And what you find in the course of your career is there are things that come your way if you're willing to jump at opportunities that you can't imagine when you're sitting here today. I can't architect some of the things that I got to do. One of the other things I got to do was go to Super Bowl 50. Which was in Levi Stadium 8 years ago. And we took a product there. People could buy, we had a 3D printing company. You could become a 3D printed football character, choose your team, put your name on it, had your face on it, had the special logo from the Super Bowl. And we were at the Super Bowl. We were part of their full retail fan experience before the Super Bowl. We watched the game. I think Coldplay played that year with Beyonce. Like, it was just awesome. I'll probably never go to the Super Bowl again. But I had an opportunity to, and it was just because of the things that had happened in the course of my career. I also got to be on the cover of a magazine, which I thought was kind of cool along the way. That was not in my career path. I've also gotten to serve with in lots of different ways. A couple of years ago, right after COVID, I had an opportunity to go teach a cohort of girls in Tanzania all about business practices that could help them get out of sex slavery. All of these types of things have come up over the course of my career that I didn't really think about in your shoes. But I have these philosophies that I think have opened doors of opportunity along the way that have allowed really fun and creative things that I'll probably never do again in one way or the other, but that gave me these stages. And so when you think about things, you don't know everything that's going to happen. The only thing I can predict is that the rest of your life is a really curvy line, and whatever you imagine today is not what it looks like 20 years from now. That's the only guarantee. And so the thing that you have to think about is, what are the decisions that you make day to day? What are the principles that guide you? How do you decide how to make decisions? What are you willing to learn along the way that allow you to do things that push you, that help you grow, let you contribute to communities and societies, build things for your family, all of those things that are important to you. Because the things that you decide to do today, the way that you decide to approach life, the way you decide to approach school and teams and relationships, it's the thing that's sticky. It's the thing that makes the determination if someone will pick up the phone and call you for an opportunity. So I decided that I'd share with you 3 core principles that I really felt like I've known for most of my life, that I've applied, and 3 that I learned along the way. So I'm going to start with this idea that you should be the person everyone wants on their team. So just think about that for a moment. Many of you, even in your college experiences, have been placed in group projects or group assignments, or you're sitting in some leadership team, and just think about it. Is there anyone that you've ever worked with on those teams that you're like, I didn't really want them on my team? All of us have those people because they come up, and we don't want to be that person. Because what you want to be is the person that every time someone forms a team, every time someone looks for an opportunity, they say, I know if I tap you, you're going to crush it. I know that if I tap you, you will do an amazing job at helping all of us be successful. I know that if I come to you and ask for your expertise, even if you don't know how to solve that problem, you'll be all in on helping us do it. I'm going to give you a couple of examples. So my 3D Plus Me company, we could literally make you Iron Man or Captain America or Black Widow, and then we had a partnership with Star Wars. And when we launched this company, so it was a startup, raised a bunch of venture capital for it, and we launched it at Comic-Con in San Diego. It's also the very best Comic-Con, and I'm totally not into all of that space, but it's the best Comic-Con if you're going to go someplace. And we launched our very first Marvel product at that Comic-Con. So one of my partners had given us a booth, so we were doing it on total, like no budget. We went in, and we had lines down for everyone to become their favorite characters, which at the time we only launched, I think, Iron Man, and then we did a special character, MODOK. If you've seen the latest Thor movie, he actually makes an appearance, which is crazy because we did that 10 years ago. So we launched it at Comic-Con, had a great experience, and then we left Comic-Con, which was at the end of June, and I got a phone call from Walmart really soon after I left. And they called me and they said, hey, Sid, how many stores can you launch in for Superhero September, which was 60 days away. Now, when we were at Comic-Con, this was our very first company launch. So we, in order to deploy the technology, you had to sit in a scanner. So we had scanning machines. We had technology that we had developed with a whole pipeline to scan your face and make you a character. And when Walmart made that call to me, I knew a couple of things. One was, I didn't have any infrastructure ready. So the first thing I said to them is, well, how many can you pay for? And then the other thing that I knew is my product price point at the time was $130. And I knew I could in no way take that to a Walmart audience and have anyone purchase. It just wouldn't make sense. So I decided I need to figure out how to make a toy line. Can you remember, I'm in June and September's a few months away. I'm like, yeah, we should definitely do this, team. And so we're like, we got to figure out this global toy license for Marvel. Come to find out, really shortly, the global toy license for Marvel is held by Hasbro. You don't make a toy unless you have a partnership or an exception from their partnership with Hasbro. Well, I didn't know anyone there yet, but we decided to make some phone calls. We quickly meet someone. They vet us. They decide to partner with us, and they decide that we can use their action figures to create a custom action figure to do that. Now, if you know big corporations, corporations are not fast. So for them to think about how I use their toy line, they're like, well, it's going to take us a year to develop from China. So we got really, really good at making really fast decisions. We actually had them send us their action figures. We popped the heads off. We created personalized heads. We repackaged them and sent them to customers. It was the only way to meet a 60-day timeline. And when I think about that, and I think about the team members that were around the table, this idea that be the person everyone wants on their team, the only way you execute a plan of having not one toy action figure in June to launching in Walmarts around the country 90 days later are with people who are all in on creative problem solving. Every one of those people who show up and say, oh yeah, you're right, we can't get products out of China. We always wanted to pop heads off. For sure, that's what we all wanted to do. And we do it. And those types of things and that mentality, it's magical in your team building community. Now, I still have every head that we popped off at my house because they represent this idea for me that great teams, when they work together, do really transformational things. The other reason I took that opportunity was because I knew that I was never going to get the call again from Walmart. They were not going to call me the next year and say, Sid, can you launch for Superhero September? They were going to call me right then at the moment they needed something. And I wanted a team and I wanted execution that could make that true. I also think that if you have this mentality of be the person everyone wants on their team, you get the opportunity to do things where you get to bring people together and people will just come and show up for you. Of the company that I was running the last couple of years, one of the things I felt like would be a really important part was to build a community around consumer products that's a part of the Utah ecosystem. Utah has a ton of consumer companies, and we don't really shine a light on them in a consistent format. So we decided to create this thing called the Consumer Summit. Well, to do something like that, you have to be able to pick up the phone and call hundreds of people to show up for you and to participate with you. They only show up and participate for you if they believe that you are also there to help them, and if they know that you're a great team member and that you will do everything possible to make them successful, and that the thing that you're doing isn't just about you. So you have to learn, I really believe, at the core of who you are, you have a willingness to be that person that everyone wants on their team. And think of all the people that you haven't loved on your team and don't do those things. Right? Think about those. And for me, the number one thing that I hire for is creative problem solving. I don't care what skills you come with. If you're someone that every problem we're faced with, we can throw you on the team, you'll come up with creative ideas, you don't get frustrated by pivots, you'll throw anything at the wall, we'll try it, some of it will work, some of it won't, and you'll be optimistic that we'll figure it out. That's the person I want in the room every time. That's the person that I've tried to be on every team that I've ever been a part of. And I think it's one of those principles that if you apply today, it will allow you to do things you won't be able to on your own. Because opportunities come from the people around you. If you build good relationships, they open doors for you every time. The other core principle that I think is really important for all of us is this idea that we are willing to give direct feedback and take direct feedback. So let me give you a couple of examples of that. When I first came out of graduate school, so I did my undergrad in computer science, and then I did my MBA, and I did them both at, not this school, sorry. When I came out of grad school, the first jobs that I took were in product management. And I jumped into this product management role, and I'm telling you, I really felt like I knew everything. Like, just came through school, I've got like every system down, I know a lot of things. And that also meant that when I was showing up in meetings, I felt like anything that I had to say, I should say. And my vice president came to me a couple months in, and he looked at me and he said, Sid, here's the deal. You have to stop talking so much. So just think about that for a minute, because people give us feedback sometimes, and we have an option when that feedback comes. So I either get to say, you're totally wrong, I'm totally right, you're just being like mean to me, everything that you're saying is not true, or I can reflect on that and say, maybe there's something true in that, maybe I'm doing something that's not having me show up in the very best way, and I'm willing to change it. That reflection and your ability to take that without being mad at the other person, with being able to reflect on who you are and what you're willing to change, and then potentially change, is really important in your career. None of us are perfect. We're all going to make a million mistakes, but we need the ability to be someone who people can give feedback to. For me, that then has gotten laced through my career in all sorts of ways. I'm the first person when I walk out of big meetings, sales meetings, even leadership meetings or pitch meetings for capital, to say to the team around me, do you think I could have done that better? Is there something that I said that didn't make sense? What do you think we should do here? Oh, I don't think I really nailed that pitch. I'm the first person to say that, because I also want the people around me to feel like they can give me feedback and say, you know what, Sid, you're right. I think maybe next time I would tweak that. Maybe we didn't hit exactly what we needed because we didn't give that feedback. But I have been so open to feedback because I know I'm not perfect. And the only way I learn is if people help me with the blind spots and say, do you know what, you'll be so much better next time if you're willing to do this. And it's really hard. And then on the flip side of that, you have to be willing to give direct feedback. And direct feedback, I would also say, in a kind way. The reason you're giving feedback is to help people become better, not because you're trying to tell them they're not good enough. You're not trying to step into someone and say, you're doing such a bad job, you're going to completely mess up everything. I can't imagine that you would do this. No, you're giving people feedback because you see their potential, you're trying to put them in the right seat, and you're trying to help them be the very most successful they can be in whatever the capacity is that they're performing at with you. And you have to be willing to be that direct. If you're not direct, people can't improve, and then people falsely believe that they're doing something well when they're not. The number one mistake that you can make if you ever have to lay anyone off is for them to not know the reason you're laying them off. You were a really bad leader if you walk into a room and you say, I'm laying you off because you underperformed and the person's blindsided. It takes a lot of guts to give feedback. And it makes a huge difference in your career, and you should do it continuously. And I've seen this applied in all sorts of other areas. So I have a son who goes to BYU. I'm sorry. My niece goes here. And he plays soccer at BYU. And when he was playing soccer in high school, there was a time when he was in high school that his playing time got cut. So he was starting, and then his playing time got cut. And he was really frustrated. And he came home, and he was really mad, and it happened over a series of games. And then, of course, as parents, you get mad. You're like, oh my gosh, they're unfairly treating my son. He deserves to be on that field. He's playing well enough. And then we took a step back, and I said to Rye, do you know what you probably need to do is you need to go say to your coach, I want to get my playing time back. What do I need to do to fix it? And he paused for a moment because that's a really hard thing to do. It's actually much easier to be mad and be like, there's some injustice against me. And your parents are mad too because you should have starting time and you used to. It's much harder to go knock on someone's door or to pick up a phone and say, I need to meet with you. And I'm going to ask you a specific question. And so Rye went and he asked the coach and he said, how do I get back to being a starter? And the coach said to him, you have a bad attitude. That's why you're not starting. So just think about that for a minute. Why does he have a bad attitude? Because he wasn't starting, and then he comes home, and then he's mad at the coaches, and then his parents are mad. The whole thing's feeding off of each other. And it doesn't matter how well he performs at practice, someone is seeing something else in him. But the moment that he goes and asks, it changes everything. They recognize he's willing to ask about what he could do. They recognize that then he has a decision about if he's willing to change his attitude and show up differently every day. That's what feedback enables, is this ability for you to decide what you're willing to change. You have to also assess, like, am I listening to this person or not? But you should always be open to learning at every stage of your career and in every moment. And you should take that feedback and you should assess it, and then you should try to change. And if the change works for you and if it doesn't work for you, then you know. But don't be someone who believes you know everything, and don't be someone who's not willing to tell other people how they can become better to help them and how you are willing to adapt in those situations. I think it's of vital importance to your success. I also have this other thing that I often say, which is don't shut your own doors. So how many of you have like fears about, I have no idea what I'm going to do in my life or how I'm going to get a job or if this career is going to make sense? Anyone have this challenge? Don't worry, I still have those questions in my life all the time. Like, what is the next thing that I am supposed to do? So it doesn't go away. But what you have to be willing to do is not shut your own doors. Because you know how when you have fear, you come up with all the reasons you won't do something. So in your mind, you think about all the things where you're like, well, maybe I don't have the skills for that. I don't have the connections. I've never really learned that. Oh, maybe they'll reject me and tell me that I'm not good enough to have that job. Maybe I won't put my application in here because did you know all those other students, they're amazing. I don't have the same resume as them. Someone else is going to get that opportunity. We do this all of the time. And when we make those mental decisions, we then actually stop from even stepping up to the plate. Because we've decided we weren't good enough to step up to the plate, or we're going to get rejected, or something won't happen. And so we don't step up, we don't take the swing because we're worried that we won't get the result that we want. The problem with that is you are deciding to walk away from every opportunity before someone else told you no. And by doing so, you don't know what's behind the very next thing. So I have two examples for you. When I was sitting in your seat and I had done my computer science undergrad, I had zero idea what I should do with my life. I just knew that I was going to finish my computer science undergrad and I'd figure out some opportunities. So I put my resume in with every job, with every company in the Career Placement Center. I did 100 job interviews in my senior semester of school. Now also, if you have a computer science degree and you're a female, also everyone will interview you. So I totally appreciate those things are true. I did 100 job interviews, and then I also took the GRE and the GMAT. And I applied to grad school. I was like, somehow all of these things are going to figure themselves out. And it so ended up that I ended up getting my acceptance to BYU's daytime MBA program and an offer from a technology company in the same week. And I went to the tech company and I said, I'd really like to go to graduate school. Will you work with my daytime MBA schedule if I take your job? And they said yes. And so for the next 2 years, I worked full time and I went to school full time and I got my degree paid for. But none of those things would have been possible had I said, you know what, maybe my grades aren't good enough to go to grad school. Maybe I'm not going to get a good enough score on the GMAT. Oh, there's probably people who have better scores than me on the GMAT. Might not get in. Or maybe I won't be able to make this whole thing work. But had I stopped myself at any point, I wouldn't have had all of those things come together that then created an opportunity that really became foundational for me in my career. So don't go shut all of those doors. Every teacher that tells you you should do something, you should do it. Every person that you have an opportunity to talk to, you should. Everything that you imagine could be interesting, you should do. Because all of those things build networks, they build opportunity, and they will give you an advantage when you try to figure out what the next thing is that you're going to do. Related to this, so going back to this idea of like, don't shut your own doors. Sometimes we do shut our own doors, and we shouldn't. So I'm going to give you an example of a time that I did this. So one of the companies I was doing, I was raising a bunch of venture capital. And I had a strategic partner that I wanted to take more money, more funding into the business for. So I flew down. I was actually trying to find the exact picture of the boardroom from the swanky Beverly Hills Hotel last night. But went to the swanky Beverly Hills Hotel, and I remember walking into this meeting room, and I end up sitting on one end of the table, and the guy I'm negotiating with sits on the other end of the table. So we sit into this room, and you can imagine it's a little bit intimidating, right? Like intentionally so. And we had talked about what we knew we needed from the investment structure for our deal before we went into that meeting. We knew exactly what that looked like. But the problem came when he asked me, he said, Sid, we can do any type of deal. Do you want me to buy your company? Do you want me to do a joint venture? Or do you want me to invest in your company? Which one will work for you? I paused. And instead of saying, this is exactly what I need, and letting him push back and take me through that opportunity, I stepped back and I said, pretty much undeclaratorily, which one will work for you? I will do whatever one works for you. And I didn't stand up for myself, and I didn't advocate for the thing that I knew the company needed. We had already talked about it, and I should have. Now, we ended up doing a deal, but it took us 9 months. Had I leaned into exactly what I knew that we needed, had I taken advantage of that opportunity in that exact moment, I probably would have closed that money in 30 days instead of 9 months. So sometimes we're at the very brink of opportunities, and we get fearful that we're going to say the wrong thing or ask for the wrong thing, and the outcome of that is going to be what we don't want. And so instead of saying, hey, this is what I'm trying to do and what I'm trying to accomplish, we pause. And when we do that, the opportunities change. So you have to think really carefully about what's the worst thing that's going to happen, right? In the legal world, it's called your BATNA, your best alternative to your negotiated agreement. In most cases, if someone says no, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? You know that they were going to say no, and you get to go figure out what to do next. And so you always have to step up to the plate, ask for what you want, and take advantage of the things that people are willing to present in front of you. Even if they don't turn out, they will lead you on a path of something that does, every time. Okay, so now I want to share with you 3 principles that I learned that I probably would say I didn't know when I was sitting in your seats. So first of all, don't be afraid to ask the tough questions. For me, this is one that I also continuously learn because I like to be nice. And sometimes my niceness thinks that all the other people in the world are good, and that's actually not true. So you have to ask the tough questions in order to figure out if the thing that you need is going to be the thing that you get. And it's hard to ask tough questions. One of the questions that my friend and I were discussing this recently over the last year, around like, what are some of those questions when you're looking at a new opportunity? So sometimes when you're looking for your job or your next career or the next thing that you should do, you're in those interviews or you're in those relationships trying to figure out if you should take the opportunity, and you want it so bad. You don't do all the due diligence that you should. You don't ask the tough questions because you believe the tough question will put you in a negative light or give you a negative answer that you don't want. What I can tell you is you want the negative result, response, or answer now so that it's part of your decision-making criteria. So generally, if I'm trying to reference someone, I have in the past asked the question like, hey, what can you tell me about so-and-so? What do you think about them? How do you like them? Well, guess what? All of us humans like to be nice to each other, so we will just say, oh my gosh, I know them, and they're good. Right? We say things like this all the time. The problem is, if you're making a decision about how to get into a relationship with someone, including working for them, it doesn't give you any context about who the person really is. So the question we decided that we should be asking when we're trying to decide if we should form business relationships or job relationships is, to people who we trust, who know them, if you had a job offer or had an opportunity to go work with them right now, today, would you take it and would you work for them? It's a much tougher question to ask, and it's a much tougher question to answer. But someone cannot say, well, I know them. Like asking someone specifically, will you go work for them? Would you go spend the next 3 to 5 years of your life in an opportunity with that person? That's a really hard question to ask because we generally might not want the answer. But if you don't get the answer and then you embark into a relationship where the answer would have allowed you to understand something better, you actually end up in a worse situation. You have to ask the tough questions time and time again, and you can't be afraid of the answer because an answer will lead you to probably something that's better for you, even a few years from now, things that you can't necessarily imagine. The other thing that I want you to think about, because of where you sit, the magical thing that you sit in is you don't have as many obligations in life as you get when you are my age. So you should take all of the risks. Every idea that you have in your mind, everything that you think could be possible if you spent time on it because you have a passion for it, you should do it now. You don't, in general, most of you, have mortgages and kids and having to pay for college tuition. Someone's paying for or helping you maybe pay for college tuition. Those things come at you in life. And you guys sit in this magical place where if you take risk and you fail, it's okay. And the more you do that, the more things that you will unlock about who you are, what you can become, and where your talents exist. So take more risks. When I came out of college, everyone was going to work for corporate America. That's like every recruiting place inside of today. Now today, it doesn't look like that. We have entrepreneurial centers. We help you think about what it means to take an idea and take it to market. You sit in the perfect place for risk. And don't be afraid of taking it, and don't be afraid of failing. Both of those are really great things for the rest of your life. So I learned this lesson a little bit later. So when I came out of college, I went straight into corporate America. I worked there. Even the first startup I jumped to was a little bit bigger. We had raised $58 million. The company was a much bigger company. But one of the things that you learn as you get more willing to take risk is that you end up owning more of your destiny. The stats say that by the time all of you are 40, you will have had 7 different careers. And I don't mean jobs. I mean careers, complete pivots on what you imagined that you were going to become. So I had this opportunity to go to Disney, and this was really the moment that changed everything in my career, from thinking about just the companies I work for, but to my ownership of my career, my destiny. So I had a good friend. I had been a chief marketing officer, and he was a chief technology officer at a company, and we became really great friends. And he left that company to go head up an arm in Disney called Disney Research. It sat in Imagineering, and when Pixar was acquired, Ed decided that the Disney company really needed a department focused on innovation that would disrupt the company over the next decade. Created labs with really brilliant PhDs and postdocs all over the world, from robotics in Carnegie Mellon to Switzerland to MIT and Harvard, just people who are solving really great problems. And this is everything from computer vision, AI, 3D, robotics, things that take a lot of time and research to figure out. And my friend had been there for a couple of years, and they got to this point where they wanted to figure out, what of that innovation could you productize? Could you build a product out of it? Could you build a business? Could you make money? And what business units at Disney should we spin those into? And so he called me, and I was coming off a company, and he's like, I think you would be great at this. You should come down and talk to us. So I flew down, I talked to them, and I came back, and he calls me the next day, and he's like, here's the deal, Sid. I think this would be an amazing opportunity for you, and you should come and join me. But here's the deal. We've never hired anyone in this job before. We don't know if it's a 3-month job or a 6-month job or a year job. We can't exactly tell you what it looks like. There's a whole bunch of unknowns about what this means or how we fund it in the future, but you should come take that job. And I only thought about it for 15 seconds because no one was going to call me with that job offer from Disney ever again. And I didn't care if it was going to last for 30 days or I ended up there just under 6 years. I didn't know at that moment, but it didn't matter because I knew the opportunity to go learn and be exposed and be a part of a company like that in a space that I care deeply about and where I love to spend time, whether it was 90 days or 5 years, was going to be something I would never get the opportunity to do again. And when I took that leap, it changed everything for me in my career. I took a lot more risks. I've taken a lot more risks since then in order to create companies and fundraise for companies and create relationships. And oftentimes I've thought, had I known what I know now, I would have done that earlier. I would have taken more risk earlier. Before I had kids, when I had ideas, when I had all of those things where I'm like, oh, could I build a company like this? I wish I would have done every one of those when I was sitting in your seat in order to create different scopes of opportunity. And for me, that's what changed. Like I started in companies, and then since then, I kind of look at even decisions that I make today of like, I get to own my own destiny. Now, these are just some logos, but I have done an amazing number of things because of my willingness to jump in, take risk, and opportunity. Everything from, I've spent 10 years teaching in the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Business Program, working with probably 1,000 entrepreneurs. That led me to teach at Babson University, and I think I'm still an adjunct at Slick because of that. But both of those let me meet thousands of entrepreneurs who are applying thousands of different ways and ideas for growth and marketing, and then think about what that means in things that I love and passion and technology. All of these things for me work together. I'm just one of those people where if I think there's something interesting that I should be working on, I usually explore it. Someone asks me to help them, I usually say yes. I have actually a really hard time saying no, so that's a principle I'm still working on, because I love both to help people and to have opportunity and to see where those things lead. I also want you to know that failure is not the end. It is just a pivot. You are going to fail at things in life, and it's going to suck. But it is not the end destination. The things that you learn when everything blows up and doesn't go right are the things that turn you into who you're supposed to become. The things that you learn when, whether it's you're in tough business relationships or a job doesn't work out or you didn't learn the skill set or something happens in your personal life, those are the things that define who we are, how we handle challenges, who we become, and the things that you learn along the way become the principles that you get to apply time and time again. So when I was building the 3D Plus Me company, we had a partner who was helping us do a big part of a deployment. So this was like a year later after our Superhero September. And we had taken an entire year to sign a deal with a major retailer to roll out for holiday season. This was a big deal. It had taken me like 40 different departments at this retailer, massive amount of work to do this. And on a Friday, 2 weeks before we were to launch, I got a call from one of my largest providers of infrastructure for this installation that said, hey, Sid, we're not going to hit your timeline. We're backing out. And that was a huge deal. And eventually, and so Monday morning, I couldn't do anything about it then, right? Monday morning, I pull everyone in, and we came up with a whole list of things to do. But it felt like a complete failure in that moment. We'd spent an entire year as a company trying to figure out what to do. And that partner was never coming back. They were never going to step back in, and they were never going to help us. And everything that we thought we were building in that exact moment disappeared. And so we ended up with a massive pivot over the course of 2 weeks. And the pivot started with something like this. I pulled everyone into a conference room. I'm like, can you please all brainstorm with me every possible idea that might help us get out of this? Every crazy, wacky, whimsical idea that we might get laughed at, but we should try. Came up with this list of like 40 items on a whiteboard. And we said, let's divide them up, let's go take them down, and let's see what happens. Short version of the story is we ended up missing our installation by only 1 day. It also took 150 family members and friends to help us get there. And it didn't look anything like what it was supposed to 3 weeks before that. It was a massive pivot, and it was a massive undertaking from all of these really great people who are around us. So it's okay to fail. You should embrace it. In the product validation world, we think about fail fast, reduce risk. It's okay if things don't work out. Just get the information and go back. And so with those 3 principles that I learned that I think are core and some that I've learned along the way, I have 2 final thoughts for you. So one is you should be fearless. Being fearless does not mean you don't have fear. It means you're willing to step in and do action. And take whatever you're afraid of in front of you, take the next step to make it become possible. Last year we had an opportunity to hike Machu Picchu, and we hiked this like 1,000 steps. There's a mountain, Huayna Picchu, next to it. You can hike 1,000 stairs straight up. And then you're literally, it's like 1,000 feet straight down on the other side of that rock. And sometimes you just have to step to that ledge, even if you're afraid, and just like capture the moment. Because every person who you think is incredibly successful, and when you look at their resume or their life, you say they have done everything perfectly. The thing that's true is they didn't. And every time they had to go do something new that unlocked that opportunity, they too did it for the first time. Like to say that I raised a bunch of capital, yeah, guess what? I hadn't raised that much money before. I had to do it a first time. All the people before me, they're exactly the same. So you just have to put this hat on of I'm willing to be fearless, I'm willing to still be afraid and still do something. Because the answer and the thing that I'll learn from it is far better than not taking a chance every time. And so with that, I just want to leave you with this final statement, that as you think about your careers, your life, where you're headed, you're not going to have all of the answers. But all the choices that you make and the principles that you apply in your life, they will end up reflecting your hopes and not your fears if you really embrace everything that's possible in this life. Thank you.
Thank you, Cydni. That was amazing. We're now going to open up for some questions. If you would, we've got a couple roaming mics. Raise your hand, and then when we find you, stand up, state your name, and then share your question.
I'm Emerald. I just wanted to say I loved everything you said. It was amazing. Really good presentation. I really resonated with the thing you said about feedback, and I'm wondering how we can start those conversations. Like, how do you casually bring up it when you're giving feedback to somebody else? And what's a nice way to go about it?
Yeah, that's a great question. The answer to how you start also depends on your relationship with them. But at the end of the day, if people really believe the reason you're giving feedback is to help make them better, you have to start with that. Like, I noticed all the things you're great at, and I can see how you could do incredible things if you made this adjustment. Or, hey, the business is really focused on this, and it feels to me like you have some gaps there. What are those gaps? These are the types I'm seeing, or this is the feedback that I'm giving. The thing that I have decided in my career and in my leadership positions is that if I have feedback to give, I'm going to give it, even if I'm afraid about what will happen. And I try to do it being kind. I try to do it under the context of I'm trying to help you become the very best person you can become. If I can do those 2 things, even if they're really mad at me, I did exactly what I was supposed to do to help them. That's a great question. Quinn, I'm going to make you ask a question.
You're gonna make me ask a question?
Yes.
Oh, I have to think about this. I really love what you said at the end about being fearless. And I wanted to ask about your experience with that, especially like in your early career. Like, were there situations where you were not fearless and where you kind of just like stepped back and let things happen around you?
Let's see, I think there's two answers to that. I very rarely let things happen around me, so that might just be core to my personality. But I think earlier in my career, being as committed to asking for exactly what I needed, I wasn't as defined on that. Like I was willing to I was fearful that not putting myself out by saying, I need exactly this, meant that if the answer was no, there was no other alternative. But the thing that you realize is when you ask someone for something like, hey, I need help with this, if they can't give you the help, most people will pivot to the thing they can help you with. Oh, hey, Sid, I can't invest in your company because it doesn't align with what we do at our fund, but I have 3 friends who do invest in this, and I will give it to you. So I have gotten much more direct and much more at the front end versus allowing myself to feel like I was a little wishy-washy because I didn't say exactly what I needed. I need people to know what I need. I need people to know the help that I need. I need people and sometimes it's fundraising, and sometimes it's career advice, and sometimes it's family advice, but I try to be really specific. This is what I need help with. Like, can you help me?
Thank you very much.
What do you do in the moment? You feel fear welling up inside. Is there a practice or something that you found helpful when you recognize that your choices are starting to be governed perhaps by fear more than your hopes?
That's a great question. Like, what are those mental practices you do when you feel fearful? I think there's 2 things. I'm definitely a role player. My car is definitely my talk time. So I talk to myself. If you ever drive by me, I'm just telling you, I'm definitely talking to myself. I role play all of those. But before I walk into that meeting, for me, it's just a big, deep breath. Like, I just remind myself I'm going to ask. And because when you're in the moment, it's really easy to let the ask pass by. You're in the moment, you're like, oh, it's not the perfect time. Oh, yeah, I should have just done it there, but I didn't do it. Oh, maybe I won't have time. I remind myself when I step into those meetings, I am going to ask this question, and I will not walk out of this room without asking this question. There was like a $10 million deal that I was closing with a Fortune 10 company. And we had a deal with them that we had performed on for 2 years, but the economics weren't working, and I needed a completely different deal with them. And I was headed into the president of this business unit. He was running $10 billion. I'm like, I have to change my entire structure, and it might mean that I'm walking away. And I remember all of those fear things came in. I'm like, all these people's jobs depend on me. Can I close this deal? What am I going to be able to get out of this? How does this shape in the future? All of those things come in. I'm like, no, I'm going to walk in this meeting. I'm going to tell him these are the types of things that I need for this to keep working. And whatever the outcome of that is, I'm going to let it go. And I will not walk out of this meeting without saying that. But I have to remind myself sometimes too. I have to ask that question.
I'm going to ask you a question. So you're involved in so many different projects and companies. You're a mom. You give back to the community. How do you show up your best self consistently? I mean, I've known you for 18 years. How do you show up so consistently to every single project? How do you keep yourself so productive and on task? And like, what is your system there?
Yeah, this great question. One of the things that I have tried to master over my career, and I'm not sure you ever fully master something, but that whatever moment that I'm in, I try to be fully present in that. And I am really okay fully context switching. So for 20 minutes, I'm fully here. If you step in and we're supposed to engage in something, I will be fully engaged in that for that course of time. And then I have learned how to, when I have to switch to the next thing, drop all of those things and focus on that so that I can be completely present in those exact moments. That doesn't mean I don't have moments where they all come back and I have to think through them. But if someone needs me to engage on something for them, I want to be completely in on that. And for me, that will mean things like putting my phone down or looking at them or maybe not even taking notes because I want them to know that I'm so present for that moment. I had to do this with my family early on too because I can easily just like let my mind work forever. And so I decided when my kids were young that the way that I was going to practice work was that I would get home by like 5 or 6, be there while my kids had to do homework and activities, And they don't care if I get back online at 11 or 10 o'clock or whenever they go to bed. They could care less. But I needed to be present for them in the moment. And those kind of things have really guided my entire career. I do it with travel too. I've traveled millions of miles, and I also have taken thousands of red eyes. So my number one way that I manage travel with my family is I want to be at home for every activity. I actually like team manage every soccer team, involved in the drill team, the golf team, you name it. I want to do all of those things. And so I have no problem being at every one of those activities, taking the red eye, flying to the East Coast for meetings, and coming home the next day. And I have done it my entire career because it was the very best thing for my family. And I'm like, you can, I think my grandmother said you can sleep when you're dead. So I'm just going to embrace that philosophy of like, I think for me, my kids are more important. And so I'm going to show up to everything. I've also made career decisions that made it possible for me to show up as a mom. So I have turned down opportunities or not taken them because I didn't think they would allow me to do the thing that's most important in my life, which is my family. And you will be forced with those trade-offs in your career too.
With so many projects to manage, just as a follow-up question, how do you manage expectations when things change?
Great.
Maybe unexpected things with your kids, or how do you manage up those expectations with, in school? How did you do that, or in your career?
Yep, and then she has a question right here too. I would say one of the things you have to master is your ability to communicate with people about expectations and needs. So if you just think about all the things coming at you, you've got family obligations, you have school obligations, you have all of these other things, one of the most important skills that you can learn is your ability to communicate with peers and your boss about how you're scoping a project. I think it includes all of these things. I think it's going to take this much time. Are you expecting this outcome? If I am able to deliver that, will that be successful? Almost every day today, I'm doing a bunch of executive consulting. Every room that I walk into, my number one question is, how is the business going to measure success of this? I think that's the question you always have to ask. If the business measures it a different way than you're executing, then no matter how you deliver, your expectations are misaligned. So it's always your job to clarify, to dive into details, and to communicate proactively so everyone around you knows what's going on.
Sorry, my mind went blank. As you're talking, you're very obviously like showing up as yourself while also being assertive and confident in what you're doing. And how do you show up as yourself like so authentically, and how have you ever received pushback for that? And how do you continue doing that?
Oh, that's a really good question. I actually don't know how to not show up as myself, just so you know. That doing anything counter to what I believe is like good and right, I just feel like that's what you're supposed to do, even if other people are going to judge that. And I think that's the hardest part, right, is what are other people going to say? I think woven into your question is also a question around women have faced more backlash around being assertive in the workforce than maybe their male counterparts. And that is a true statement. The thing that I believe is that things that should, and for most often do win in business, is if you're showing up with a skill set, if you're understanding what the value is that you're contributing, that you are also not only providing ideas, but listening to other people around you. I think the most important thing you do is understand other people's perspectives. I have a whole other presentation I do on this idea I have called deal sense. But I think the place that people fail and the reason they get thought about as being assertive in a different way is because they didn't read the room. They don't actually know what all the needs are of the people around the room. And so when they communicate, they didn't listen and get buy-in from key stakeholders. Remember early in my career, one of my peers on the executive team, he's like, Sid, every meeting that you walk into is the 80-20 rule. You need to know that if you need something to happen, 80% of the people already support you. So I have become incredibly good, not at showing up at a meeting and presenting an idea, but asking all of those key people who are stakeholders who might say no, might have objections, might have different outcomes, asking them what they need before I show up in a meeting and say we need to go this direction. That's really how you make things happen, and that's really how you change perception. You're still being assertive. You're still allowing and driving things to make them happen, but you're understanding these puzzle pieces. Like what that's allowed me to do at this stage in my career is if you give me a puzzle of problems in a company, in minutes I can probably figure out from listening to a few people how that puzzle needs to come together to actually execute. But it's seriously decades of figuring out how you listen to people, how you understand what the business outcome is, and advocating for every one of them. When I was at Disney, inside of Disney Imagineering, I didn't have any of the people reporting to me that I needed to execute projects. So one of the projects, the one that I did with Han Solo, had 300 people who needed to execute on that and probably 15 different departments. No one reported to me. So that meant my job was creating advocacy and support in every group, understanding their needs, understanding how they were going to measure success, making them feel like they had fingerprints on this, listening to what they were, adjusting things in real time, so that when everyone came together, like, oh my gosh, yep, we'll throw resources at that. Absolutely, we'll show up. Oh yeah, you listen to the challenge we have. Nice pivot. How do we do that? That is how you create masterful relationships. And I think that's the thing that counters that is just stand in a room and force everyone into my opinion. Everyone then thinks the opposite. And actually, no one ever does anything for you if you do that. So you have to create the advocacy. And in turn, I think people then recognize the strength you have as a leader. We have one more question? I don't even know what time it is.
Hey, my name's Izzy, and I was just wondering, as a woman in a STEM field, you're kind of singled out a little bit. I feel like, at least in my experience and just my education so far, it feels a little bit alienizing. I was wondering how you balance being both assertive and building relationships when it's especially difficult or people might perceive you differently.
So when I did my computer science undergrad, I was one of only 3 women in the computer science program. So there were really no other women in that. And I would say even through the course of my career, especially my very technical roles, there's really no other women around the table. I think but it's also not a bad thing, because you have an opportunity, I think, if you can adequately express your creativity and the ideas that you have, that you will really have people listen to you. So for me, it takes stepping out of your comfort zone a little bit and saying, I'm willing to participate in the brainstorm. I'm not going to sit back. I'll contribute. If my idea doesn't win, it's no big deal, but I'm going to be part of the ongoing conversation that helps everything get better. The way that you build networks is not by coming to me and saying, oh my gosh, Sid, I need to meet you because I want to use everyone in your network. Can you give me these 7 things? That's not how any relationship is. Relationships are built when we sit down, we connect on something, and over the course of time, we reconnect or we find ways to create value, expecting nothing in return. Nothing in return. And then those networks become powerful things. I've spent a lot of my career building networks. One of the things I do is from my very first job, every person that I ever worked with, I connected to on LinkedIn. Thousands of people in my network are still people I had from my very first jobs. That over the course of our careers, they've come back to connect. So you have to be so focused on when you work with other people, you are helping them become exceptional. That they feel like you on their team should happen every time, not just because you're a great worker, but because you help them become better. And that in turn creates networks. As I've thought about my career timeline, I've never really looked for a job. They've come because of connections. And they've come because I've been in conversations, or I've spent decades literally building relationships with people where I've helped them. 15 years ago, I started the Women Tech Council. And I did it just because I thought we needed more women in tech, from high school to the boardroom. And we still do. We're still making very slow progress, but we're still working on that. But one of the things I didn't realize would happen is I would meet thousands upon thousands of men and women who would become integral into my network and create opportunities that I could never have imagined. I didn't start it for that reason. But as I've watched over the last number of years, it has become a transformative component of spending time helping other people. And that's really cool, that you get to use some amount of your talent to help other people in their lives, to build better communities, to build better families, to build better outcomes for other people who are around you. And networks are created because you create value with people, not because you expect anything in return. And if you never get anything in return, who cares? You just did something to help someone else. And that's just how I believe in showing up all the time.
Do you have a closing thought?
Do I have a closing thought? Yes, my closing thought is just do it. Like whatever the thing is that's in your mind right now, go do that thing. Like take advantage, have no fear, take more risks, and just go and embrace every opportunity that you have, because it will create the life that you want and a whole bunch of magical moments you could never imagine.
Well,
If I stand up here, I'm taller.
there we go. Yeah. Well, that was amazing. What a gift to be here today.
Oh, thank you.
I hope it's not lost upon you that just a few years ago, she was in your spot, right? She was finishing up a degree, trying to figure out what's next. And as she started, she had no idea what would unfold with her life, all these amazing opportunities. And you've been given the gift to understand the principles that helped her get to accomplish and contribute the things that she's been able to accomplish and contribute. Principles govern our lives. And when we make choices that align with those principles, amazing things happen. So this is a gift that she's given to you. So let's thank her again for being here. We have a small gift for you from the Huntsman School of Business. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm excited. I don't have any Utah State gear, and sometimes for my Board of Higher Education, I need all the schools. So I'm super
You're
excited.
due. Yeah, this is an important
Thanks,
part.
Malcolm.
Thank you.
Thanks, you guys.